good to start.
All right. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the City of Hollister Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, June 26th. And first item, call to order, verification of agenda posting, Billy.
Thank you, Chairman Torres. The agenda for the June 26, 2013 Planning Commission was posted on Friday, June 21st at 5:20 p.m.
Thank you. Commissioner Boyd, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job, man.
All right. Thank you. Roll call.
Commissioner Alvarez.
Here.
Commissioner Lenore.
Present.
Commissioner Haboy.
Present.
Chairman Torres.
Here. All right. Approval of minutes for May 23rd, 2013.
I'll make the motion.
Motion, and I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Approval of minutes. Communication from the public on items not listed on the agenda. Billy, do we have any speaker cards for items not listed?
No, sir.
None. Okay. With that, we'll move down to public hearings, item number 1, which is the growth management allocation 2013-7 filed by James Rossi requesting 3 residential units on a vacant lot between 797 and 751 West 2nd Street in the Old Town High Density Residential Zoning District. San Benito Assessor's parcel number is 53-300-016. And with that, we'll turn it over to staff with their presentation.
Oh, boo. All right, so here we go. We're having technical difficulties over there, so we may not have any PowerPoint presentation tonight. If you guys want, you could try to steal this computer and work on it. It doesn't matter. I'll try to get through this as quickly as possible. Thank you, Chairman Torres. What we have here is a request for 3 allocations on a vacant piece of property at 797 West 2nd Street. The application has been filed by James T. Rossi for the LCC Rossi Trust. The project is proposing, just from the preliminary drawings, 3 units consisting of 1,000 square feet per unit. There are 2 single-car garages on the front 2 units and a 2-car garage in the back unit. Each of the units are essentially 2-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and there is the project, at least as designed right there, meets the open space requirements for all the units. I do, again, always want to stress that with high density or medium density projects, that the awarding of allocations to this particular project does not necessarily give them Planning Commission approval. So I don't necessarily want you focusing, kind of on the layout, because there are various concerns that actually I have as staff. We haven't quite got to that point. Those actually come back to you in the form of a site and architectural application. The 300-foot notices are given to the neighbors, and there's a standard public hearing process. So again, this is really just an allocation process. 3 allocations are being requested. If you have any questions of staff, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Again, we don't necessarily want to focus too much on design and layout of the properties. But
okay, thank you, Billy. Any comments or questions from fellow commissioners on this item before we open it up for public comment? None. Then we'll open it up for public comment at 6:08. Billy, have any speaker cards on this item?
hang on just a second here. I have no speaker cards.
No
sorry.
speaker cards. Okay, so we'll close that at 6:09 and bring it back to the commission.
For the Commission's benefit, the resolution, if there's a motion and a second and a vote, the resolution would be PC Resolution 2013-11.
Okay. Any comments, questions from commissioners? Okay. None?
I'll move to approve Planning Commission Resolution PC 2013-11, approving 3 residential allocations, or, I'm sorry, there's no application number, so 3 residential allocations for James T. Rossi on 797 West Second Street.
Yeah, the application was 2013-7.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's okay. I got it. We know what you're talking about.
okay, it wasn't on here.
Oh, sorry.
2013-7?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, so we'll move down to item number 2, which is a Site and Architectural Review 2013-3, Tentative Map 2013-1, and Conditional Use Permit 2013-2 for a planned unit development, North Florida Development, Ted Intervia, the west end of Ladd Lane across from Hillcock Drive, requesting approval of a tentative map to subdivide an 8.51 acre parcel into 44 lots consisting of commercial and residential improvements. The Site and Architectural Review and Planned Unit Development is to request to construct a 12,410 square foot medical office building, a 20,500 square foot single-story commercial retail building, 9 apartment buildings with 7 units each, 25 courtyard units, and 13 single-family residential units, an 8.5 acre lot within the neighborhood mixed use and high-density residential performance overlay zoning district of the city of Hollister. CEQA is a mitigated negative declaration. With that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to staff.
Thank you.
Hey, Rem?
We do have quite a bit of information to provide to you. We're going to try to provide it to you in a concise, more concise way. We're going to start by with the project description. The applicant is requesting approval of a tentative map, site and architectural review, and conditional use permit for a planned unit development. As you just mentioned, the project is a request to subdivide an 8.51 acre parcel into 44 lots consisting of commercial and residential improvements. The site and architectural review is a request to construct a 12,410 square foot medical office building, as you had mentioned. Also a 20,500 square foot single-story commercial retail building, 9 apartment buildings with 7 units each, 25 courtyard units, and 13 single-family residential units within the neighborhood mixed-use and high-density residential performance overlay zoning district of the city of Hollister. The applicant is proposing to provide access from a new driveway onto Ladd Lane that will align with Hillock Drive. There will be a gate placed on each side of the Hillock Drive extension where the road branches out to wrap around the courtyard units, as you can see on your plans or up here on the screen. A roundabout would be proposed prior to arriving at the residential gates to allow adequate turnaround for vehicles not entering the residential portion of the site. An additional gate would be placed towards the northwest corner of the courtyard units. The courtyard units and the single-family residential units would be gated together. Lots 1 through 3 of the tentative map would be located along the north side of the lot and consist of apartment buildings. Lots 4 and 5 would be located towards the eastern part of the lot along Ladd Lane and consist of commercial buildings. Lots 6 through 18 would be located along the south side of the lot and would consist of single-family residential units. And lots 19 through 43 consist of courtyard residential units. Parcel A measures 1.8 acres and it consists of the Hillock Road extension.
The medical office building previously received a site and architectural review approval under SNA Review 2008-12 and Planning Commission Resolution 2008-29. The medical office building would be located on the southeastern corner of the lot. The building would be located within a 2.55 acre portion of the project site that is zoned neighborhood mixed use. The building would consist of 7 suites for medical offices, a hallway recessed wall with decorative arches on the north elevation of the building, a passenger loading area with also new lighting and landscaping. The commercial retail building would be located on the northeastern corner of the lot. The building would be located also within the 2.55 acre portion of the project site that is zoned neighborhood mixed use. The building would consist of a single-story commercial retail shell. The building consists of stucco exterior siding in earth tone colors. The height of the building would consist of 30 feet 5 inches at the highest point, and it will step down to 23 feet and 6 inches. The site would have 9 apartment buildings located to the west of the proposed commercial retail building on the north side of the proposed Hillock Drive extension. 6 of the 9 buildings would be located north of the proposed courtyard units. Each building would consist of 7 residential units, of which 6 units would have 2 bedrooms and 1 unit would have 1 bedroom. The first floor would consist of 3 residential units, the second floor consists of 4 units, and the third floor includes the bedrooms associated with the second floor. The height of each building would be 35 feet 7 inches to the top of the roof. The exterior of the building would have stucco siding in earth tones, and the roof would have an S-tile roofing in reds and earth tones as well. The top windows would include shutters, and most other windows would include decorative accents as well. The north and south elevations would include balconies on the second floor with dark bronze metal railings on the front and sides of the balcony. Each balcony would measure 88 square feet. The exterior stairs would also be concealed with a stucco wall. The bottom units each have an 88 square foot porch.
The site would also have 25 courtyard units located west of the proposed commercial retail building, between the apartment buildings to the north and the single-family residential units to the south. The proposed Hillock Drive extension surrounds the courtyard units. There are 4 proposed courtyard pod layouts, and each would have a driveway connection to the Hillock Drive extension on the south side. All 4 courtyard pod layouts would have 6 units each. A single residential unit would be located at the east end of the courtyard units. A typical courtyard pod layout would consist of a T-shaped driveway consisting of proposed pavers. Each individual unit would have its own garage with a concrete driveway, and each courtyard would have 2 units facing the Hillock Drive extension. The courtyard units would consist of 3 different residential unit models. The site would also have 13 single-family lots with an average lot size of 2,852 square feet located along the south property line, abutting existing single-family residential units. The proposed single-family residential units would consist of 4 different facade models. These are 2 here that you see on the site, and 2 out of the 4. Each model unit consists of the following. They're all going to be 2 stories. 2 models will have 3 bedrooms, and the other 2 models will have 4 bedrooms. Each unit has covered parking, stucco siding in earth tones, clay pipe vents, and colorful tile accents. Some of the windows would include shutters and others decorative accents. 2 model units would have a Spanish architectural style, and 2 units would have a Tudor revival style with steep pitch roofs. The total percent of landscaping within the development area of the project site would be 21%. Landscaping would include various trees, shrubs, vines, and ground cover. The center area of the roundabout would also be landscaped as well.
Excuse me, Abraham, did you say 21%
Correct.
landscaping?
Correct.
Really?
The subject property is located within 2 zoning districts. The 2.55 acres towards the east of the lot along Ladd Lane are zoned neighborhood mixed use. The remaining central and western portions of the property are zoned R4 HPZ for high-density residential performance overlay zone. A mitigated negative declaration was adopted for a general plan amendment and zone change by the City of Hollister City Council at its August 18, 2008 meeting. The mitigation measures apply to this site and architectural review. A mitigated negative declaration assumed the 12 to 35 units per acre for the R4 and 43,560 square feet of commercial development for the neighborhood mixed use. The proposed site plan includes multimodal facilities such as bike racks, a transit stop, and pedestrian walkways along each side of the proposed access driveway. The draft resolution includes a condition that requires a pedestrian crossing to connect the sidewalk to the building with a differential paving that will also replace the uses of striped crosswalks at pedestrian crossings. The project title sheet indicates that the site would be developed in 3 phases. The first phase would include Building A, the medical office building, Building B, the commercial retail building, and 3 of the 9 apartment buildings. The second phase would include the remaining 6 apartment buildings. The final 3rd phase would conclude with the 25 courtyard homes and 13 single-family homes. Mitigation measure aesthetics 1 limits the height of the buildings on the south side of the project site to 30 feet. The proposed medical office building is less than 23 feet in height and complies with the mitigation. The single-family units along the south side of the property are also proposed at less than 30 feet to the top of the roof. A condition in the attached resolution also requires recordation of a deed restriction limiting any future building addition or facade improvement to a height of 30 feet. The applicant has also designed the south elevation of the building to include variation in roof lines and to screen mechanical equipment. The lighting plan should show that the parking lot lights or any other lighting on the property could not trespass into the rear yard of any existing residence to the south. A condition in the draft resolution requires a lighting plan prior to the issuance of a building permit. That requires a shield be placed on the parking lights pursuant to Land Use Policy LUJ in the 2005 to 2023 Hollister General Plan.
Mitigation measure T1 of the environmental document requires completion of off-site improvements to the intersection of Nash Road and Rancho Drive. Mitigation measure T2 requires a left turn and right-through lane at the project driveway intersection approach to Ladd Lane. Mitigation measure T3 requires the applicant to establish a benefit assessment area and deposit pro rata funds for the future signalization of Ladd Lane and Hillock Drive prior to issuance of a building permit for the project. The requirements for these mitigation measures have been incorporated into the draft resolutions as conditions. Hillock Drive extension stops at the northwest area of the property abutting the southeast corner of the adjacent property to the west. There would be a 24-foot wide emergency egress easement located along the bias property, south property line where the proposed road on the Entravia property is proposed to stop. A pedestrian gate would be placed next to the emergency vehicle access for a pedestrian connection between the properties in keeping with General Plan Circulation Element Policy C2.3, pedestrian connections. The majority of the project site is within the Alquist-Priolo earthquake fault hazard zone. A geologic fault investigation was conducted on the property in August 2008 by Earth Systems. The fault hazard investigation indicates that a potentially active fault is located to the west of the proposed 12,410 square foot medical office building. This area is shown on the site plan as a fault zone exclusion and is proposed to be used for off-street parking. A condition has been placed in the resolution which requires that prior to the issuance of a building permit for phases 2 and 3, the property owner shall demonstrate that the entire site has met the requirements of the Alquist-Priolo law.
The applicant is proposing one freestanding monument sign to be located at the southeast corner of the Hillock Drive extension. The sign would stand 7 feet high and 11 feet wide. The 1 foot 8 inch base would be made of plaster. The face of the sign listing the tenants would be external illuminated wash on metal plaques. The upper portion of the sign would be arched recessed font signage constructed out of monolithic concrete, which would read Ladd Lane Park Estates. The required parking for general merchandise is 1 vehicle space for every 250 square feet. The medical office parking required would be 3 spaces per doctor for each unit. 7 units are located within the proposed medical building. With 1 doctor per unit, the required parking for the medical office building would be 21 spaces. The total number of spaces required for both buildings would be 103 spaces. The site plan illustrates 115 spaces provided for both buildings. Therefore, the project meets and exceeds parking requirements. The entire project site would also be located within close proximity to a new public transit stop. Bicycle parking would also be proposed at both buildings. There'd be 9 apartment buildings proposed with 7 units for each building. The units would then total 63. According to Table 1718-1, off-street parking and bicycle spaces required by land use type, the parking requirements for multifamily housing would be 1.5 spaces per 1 to 2 bedroom unit and 1 guest space for every 4 units. All the proposed apartment units are either 1 to 2 or 2 bedroom units, which would then set the parking requirement to 94.5 spaces with 15.75 guest spaces needed. The total parking for the apartment units would be 110.25 spaces. The proposed site plan illustrates 133 spaces provided, therefore the project meets and exceeds parking requirements. Bicycle parking would also be proposed at each of the building clusters. So per each three apartment buildings. There would be 25 courtyard units proposed. The parking requirements for single family within those courtyard units would be 2 spaces. Each residential unit is proposed with a minimum of 2 spaces within an attached garage. There is also a few extra spaces within the courtyard. Therefore, the project meets and exceeds parking requirements. There would be 13 single-family units proposed. The parking requirements for single-family would also be 2 spaces. Each residential unit is proposed with a minimum, same as the courtyard, of 2 spaces within an attached garage. There is also additional driveway parking in front of each unit. Therefore, the project also meets and exceeds parking requirements for each component of the project.
The proposed site plan incorporates several features for multimodal access, including a bus shelter along Ladder Lane with a bench next to the shelter, which would be on the east side of the proposed medical building. Also a bike rack near the west side of the building entrance. Also extension of a Class 2 bike lane on Ladder Lane, along Ladder Lane. Sidewalks on both sides of the Hillock Drive extension. A vehicular drop-off at the entrance to the medical building, as you can see in the front screen or in your plans. And a monument sign at the southwest corner of Hillock Drive and Ladder Lane, as Joe had mentioned earlier. At this point, we would like to address your attention to the site and architectural resolution attached to the packets. And we also made a slide here for, it would be on the site, because there's three resolutions. One's a site and architectural, one's a tentative map, and the other is a conditional use permit for the PUD. So the first one would be the site and architectural resolution, page 5 of 16, and that would be condition number 16. If and it's also up here on the screen if you would like to take a look at it as well. Essentially, the strike-through is what the staff is proposing to remove, and the red letters, as seen on the screen, is what staff is proposing to add. Essentially, on condition number 16, we would like the condition to read, the owner shall install a backflow prevention device on the sewer laterals. The device shall be maintained and operated by the owners and shall be periodically tested by the owners to ensure the device is working properly. And that's we removed existing because there's no existing at the moment. And of course, we removed between the buildings and city sanitary sewer main because they're not existing as of now. But it's very important to add that condition for in case there's any backups to the sewer, then the backups won't go into the residential units, but it would stop at at the backflow. So that's why it's important to have it with these changes. Also, on the same page 5 of 16, condition number 17. The only thing we added to this to this condition is in the commercial buildings. Essentially, to read, the project proponent shall install oil grease separators in the commercial buildings to minimize the impact of pollutants from entering the sanitary sewer. That way we differentiate from the residential, make it more clear. Page 9 of 16, 3 pages down, or 4 pages down, page 9 of 16 on the same resolution, site and architectural. Essentially, we're adding any residential building adjacent to the north property line on the project site that are butting up against existing commercial uses shall be provided with a central air conditioner to allow for closure of upstairs windows to maintain indoor noise levels within 45 decibels, or an alternative energy efficient technology that will provide cooling and maintain indoor noise levels within the 45 decibels. And that's just to specify which units, the ones that are closer to the existing commercial to the north. And finally, on the site and architectural condition number 51, that's located on page 9 of 16. That one would be the same instead of, we just didn't add the, we weren't clear on 84 what 84-foot right-of-way and bicycle path extension is what the city is requesting. So we just added that in red font. And finally, on the tentative map resolution, attached to your packet as well, page 13 of 18, condition number 45, talks about maintenance of private roads and facilities. In this particular condition, at the very end, it indicates the community centers and the segment of Hermosa Way between the north property line and the entrance gate. Staff is recommending striking through that last sentence and just removing it, deleting it from the condition, but keeping the rest. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and consider approving Saturn Architectural Review Application 2013-3, Tentative Map 2013-1, and Conditional Use Permit 2013-2 for Plan Unit Development, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolutions with the changes mentioned regarding the conditions before you. Does the Planning Commission have any questions for staff?
Any comments, questions from commissioners?
I have some comments.
Okay.
First of all, the project is market rate? Is all
Yes.
market rate?
It is our understanding that it's all market rate, correct?
Some of the things I liked about this, and I really enjoyed looking at these plans, I really enjoyed it. And I like the fact that it's market rate. I really like the fact that it exceeds the parking requirements in all the areas. That's a plus. You don't always see that. I like the swimming pool for the residents of the apartment complex. That's important, since we don't have a public swimming pool. I also like the pavers at the courtyard for the T-shaped driveways. I love pavers everywhere you put them. And I did also like the Tudor style on the single-family dwellings. So there's just some of the comments. I thought the project was looked busy, but I think it's got a decent layout. That's all.
Okay. Any additional comments? Okay. I just had one. And so the driveway for this development will be a private or city-maintained roadway? Is that?
Go ahead.
Private.
It's private.
It'll be
Private.
private, okay. Right, because I noticed the mitigation about relocation, or actually the installation of the crosswalks really way within the development versus out in the Lad Lane, Hillcock intersection. But I guess that's one of the mitigations at a later point when signalization will come in later, correct?
When
I
is
saw
the light going at Hillock?
The lights on Hillock and Ladling?
Yeah.
I saw some mention of some signalization at a later date, and I
Yeah.
tied that into the actual crosswalk that's going within the inside of the development, so.
My apologies.
so.
I just heard from David that it's designated when it's warranted. I thought it was actually tied to something, but I was wrong. It's never happened before. I was never wrong. Yeah.
Okay. Those were my only comments. Anything else? Okay.
There is something else. On the sign architectural, the condition L1, I mean, does it need to be there? It's talking about the zoning ordinance revision when it's completed. Everything's zoned, general plan and zoned appropriately, correct?
Should be, yes.
So that condition doesn't really apply anymore. And one last thing, it's a regular meeting on the passed and adopted. It's a regular meeting of the planning commission.
What was the first condition, Commissioner Lenore?
It's L1 under land use mitigation measure, page 12 of 16.
Yeah.
It's talking about until the citywide zoning ordinance is completed. It's all done. I think it's all good, right?
Yes. Is it important, though, that it stays because it's part of the mitigated neg deck? It has been met, though, you're right, Commissioner Lenore. It has been,
Well, I'm just saying, these
Adopted.
are the conditions for this SNA, and that doesn't seem to apply anymore. But maybe it's just me. And if you
Carol,
wanna leave it in, that's fine too.
Commissioner Lenore, where is that condition that you're referring to?
L1, page
L-
12 of 16 of the site and
12,
architectural.
16.
Under land use mitigation measure.
I mean,
Oh, it's part
I
of the
don't care.
sequel?
I
Okay.
just thought, aren't we done with all that?
And speaking of the mitigated negative declaration, is that part of our, we're viewing a site and architectural application, a tentative map, and a conditional use permit. Also, the CEQA document, too, is part of our purview, right?
the CEQA document was adopted.
Was adopted,
Yeah, back in
okay.
2008. So, but it, yeah. Mhm. And it was for the general plan amendment and rezone of essentially the subject property.
All right, any additional comments?
Well, let me,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, I'm sorry. After looking at L1, if the commission desires to, it probably can eliminate L1, because it's a mitigation measure for the actual zoning. The zoning has taken place, that action has been taken by council, so there shouldn't, it probably doesn't matter one way or the other. It's your choice.
Because it doesn't impact it since it's
No,
already rezoned.
it doesn't,
It's fine.
it doesn't necessarily impact it one way
I
or
was
the
just
other.
Okay.
confirming that it was all done.
Yeah,
Okay.
it
All
is
right.
done.
With that, we will go ahead and open up to the public comment period at 6:35. Do you have any speaker cards, Billy?
Wait, yes, I do. 6:35. Jennifer Coyle.
Good evening, Jennifer Coyle, homeowner at 1705 Severinsen Street, so directly abutting the project. And my hair's a wreck from going to the market with the heat and humidity, so I'm hoping that the CMAP technician will put on the beautification lens so it won't look so bad. Anyway, first, I'd like to appreciate that our local developer has utilized the talent of fantastic local women for this project. Christina Perez, the architect, Ann Hall in engineering, Anita Kane in landscape architecture, and then, of course, with the review of our City of Hollister planner, Jill Morales, with the help of Averma, of course. But, you know, first, I really appreciate using local people for a local job. And coincidentally, they're great women. Wow, exciting. But we have great male architects, too, but, you know. So, in
This area that I know.
So, reviewing the plans, conditions of approval, I'd like to applaud the inclusion of certain things, the transit stop, the numerous bike racks serving the development that are carefully shown on the plans, water-efficient landscaping. As a neighbor, the restrictions on noise from construction, landscape maintenance, and grounds maintenance activities, wonderful landscaping plans, and I like the choice of trees like pear and olive. So then I do have a couple of questions. There's the pedestrian gate at the south side. And yeah, but then if there's vehicular gates at the roundabout, can the pedestrians walk through from Cushman through to here?
There should be pedestrian gates at each auto gate here. There.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Just wanted to check, because we've, in your previous approvals, some of you who are here know that in the Jaman subdivision on the Cushman projects, that property owner agreed that they were willing to connect to Mr. Intravia's path, and he said he was willing to connect with theirs. So I'm really glad, because it is well used now, and then we can walk to our doctor's appointments, right? Not to mention the commercial property. So then, just a couple of questions on mitigation T4, which said back in 2008, within 6 months of completion of the Highway 25 bypass, the City of Hollister Engineering Division will conduct studies to determine average daily traffic volumes on Tres Pinos Nash Road, between San Benito Street, Rancho Drive, Lad Lane, Airline Highway. And so I was just wondering if this had been done. The purpose of these studies and also vehicular and pedestrian counts at the intersection of Rancho Drive, Tres Pinos, Nash Road, when both schools were in session, was to determine when are we going to get to the magic moment where we will meet the Caltrans or other standards, the signal warrant for a traffic signal somewhere in there to help the kids trying to access Rancho. Another question about the landscaping plan. In the single-family units, it showed in the front yard perennials in pots. So I was just wondering, are the pots going to be constructed and installed next to the one tree in the front yard of each of those lots? Are they kind of built-in, sort of large containers? Then the parking for the medical office. We see 3 ADA spaces, and I'm sure that's code, but I'm just curious if in actual practice at medical office buildings in Hollister, is that enough ADA spaces? And with aging population and so forth, will we wake up 10 years from now and find out, wow, they're always full and people are always fighting for ADA spaces. So I know you're dealing with code. I'm just wondering if we can also use common sense or benefit from our example of other things in Hollister. And I may be wrong. 3 may be perfect for these kind of spaces. I noticed in the courtyard units there are some tandem parking garages, and I'm just curious, have these been used in other developments in Hollister? Has the market accepted them? Are they practical? Or is the idea that people park the boats and jet skis at one end and they're only parking one car in the garage? I'm just curious. It's obviously not, a code or design problem. The trees in the parking lots. Commissioner Lenore pointed out there is an awful lot of parking. And I just don't see very many trees, and depending on the parking paving material, that radiates a lot of heat in the summer, and the trees can help mitigate that. So I presume code is what's been provided, but I just wonder if it would be a more pleasant environment in our 4 months of summer especially, to have some more shade, trees, and so forth, without compromising safety, security, sight lines, and so forth. So just a question. And then there's no lighting plan provided now because the lighting plan is going to be provided at a certain point. That is the CUP condition of approval 5G, and also site and architectural review number 42. And it's said that the exterior lighting will comply with the 2005 general plan requirements and section 1716.090 of the Hollister Municipal Code. But I'm just wondering, in those years since those were adopted, are there any different green building standards, dark skies? Will this cover it, or will it be addressed when the actual lighting plans are shown later? So, thank you.
Thank you. So in regards to the questions, do we want to go ahead and address a few of those at this point, or?
Yes, Chairman Torres. I think that the traffic one can probably be better answered by engineering, by Dave. But regarding the ADA parking spaces next to the medical office, the ADA requirements, as you may know, they change very constant, maybe like every year or so. And so at the time of submittal for the building permit, they would have to abide by what the current minimum parking is for ADA. Ms. Coyle is correct. There is a lot of parking for the project, and if the applicant would like to add additional ADA parking spots, then that should be fine. At the time of the building permit submittal, we would definitely take a look at that and see. With our experience with the applicant, it seems like the applicant would like to accommodate as best as possible the different uses that are proposed for the project. So I'm sure that he would not if it meets the criteria and the uses, I'm sure that he would want to accommodate it as best as possible. If that means adding more ADA, but certainly they would have to meet the minimum at the time of submittal. Also, regarding trees in the parking lot and the perennial and pots installed or planted on the residential and the courtyards, that I think would probably be a better answer from the applicants maybe, if the applicant may want to answer that, but it seems to us that that's going to be installed in the front yards at the time of development. Regarding the lighting plan, yes, that is a condition of approval. Prior to actual submittal, prior to issuance of a building permit, they would have to submit a lighting plan, and we would have to review it administrative to make sure that it's consistent with the general plan LUJ policy of essentially not avoiding light trespassing into the neighbors, especially in the backyards. And also we have in our zoning ordinance measures that speak to this, and we would want to make sure that all of these ordinances are met regarding the lighting standards on the plans. But regarding the T4 mitigation measure and tandem parking, maybe Dave can help us out with that.
Okay, so since the bypass has opened, there was an expectation of about a 15% reduction in traffic. There has been recent studies completed by other developers and other entities, not necessarily specifically by the city, that showed the reduction actually amounted to about between 22% in certain cases. So we're satisfied that the bypass was successful in taking traffic off off Nash Road. The traffic signal at Rancho, the Tres Pinos, Nash Road, and Rancho Drive, that is a signal that is planned to go in. It's currently Caltrans would not support it, so we are waiting for the the relinquishment and transfer to occur before that road actually comes into the city, gets actually into the city jurisdiction. That once that happens, then there will be some consultant studies done that will actually do the complete warrant analysis of the signal location. Feel pretty strongly that the signal is probably warranted because of the pedestrian crossings of people going from the kids actually going from Rancho School to the south side of Nash Road. They're currently using a crossing guard at Cushman. The signal would be placed as a three-legged intersection with an entrance making the fourth leg into the Cushman property, and so there would be steps taken to actually get that signal put in. One of the things that needed to happen with this project that has already happened is Rancho was to become a no parking zone on the west side of Rancho, and that has occurred. The curbs are red, and it does provide an additional opportunity for people to make a right turn onto Nash Road while waiting for people to make left turns off of Rancho onto Nash. So I anticipate that there will be a traffic signal there. It's still a number of years away. I believe it's identified in the traffic impact fee program. And so, there are some fundings. The prorated share will be shared between this project and the Cushman project once they get going on their construction in their for their development. As far as the tandem parking, there are places in Hollister where that has been done. I haven't heard any complaints. Yes, people will probably store stuff in the back half of the garage, but that will also still provide an opportunity for a car to be parked in the front half of it. Yes, people might park their boat or some other vehicles back there, but that's what garages are for. So I don't anticipate that that's going to be a problem.
Thank you. Okay. I think we covered those questions. Billy, you have any other speaker cards for this item? All right.
I have no more speaker cards. Oh, Ty does want to speak?
Oh, boy.
Which units have the tandem?
The
Courtyard?
Actually, all of them do.
Because I missed that. I don't know how I did that.
The, Commissioner Lenore, some of the courtyard units and then a few of the single family, if you kind of look, here's one here.
Single door is a tandem?
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
I
Didn't even think it?
Didn't see that. I thought they were single car garages. Okay, thank you. Glad I knew that.
I just actually wanted to tell Jennifer that I do apologize for the planters. Those ceramic planters were actually supposed to be taken out of the plans. So they're supposed to be planted plants, not in planters. And as far as I know we talked about the lighting for the building, and the reason why we didn't put in the lighting was just because we're trying to do more of a architectural lighting if we can, eventually when we do get to that point. And if we do change fixtures, then obviously the plans that we do will not correlate with what we have here. And you'll be more than welcome to take a look at them at that point if you'd like. Yes, no, they will not be that bright. And we're also working, just so you know, on when we do the lighting for the residential areas, we'd also like to get away from the standard Cobra lights and go with more of a pedestrian type of feel. Possibly something similar to how you have the downtown lighting. So,
Great.
That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Oop, change
I
the
feel
tape.
like I need to bring one more thing up. Because I was concerned with it right off the bat, but I've talked to county staff and I went out to the site. The 10-foot setback from the PUD development of the single family to the existing homes backed up the rear yards of Tina Drive. So I went out there. I'm sensitive to that because my mom was on Cushman when they put in Severinsen. But I'm comforted by the fact that the grade level is pretty much the same where Severinsen was so higher of a grade. Then they put in 2-story homes that were huge. And they lost all their privacy in their backyards to the point where they could even see in the living room. There was some solutions to that. People extended their carports. My mother built another building. But I did think about that, and I hope that it all works out. That's close. That's close to the property line there. The homes on Tina Drive seem to have some fairly decent, mature trees that will aid them, and a little bit of shielding there. And then Abraham, there is a requirement that it doesn't go over 30 feet. I wouldn't have been so concerned until I found out it was just a 10-foot yard back there. And I'm hoping that all works out okay.
Okay. So we have no other speaker cards, Billy?
No, sir.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do.
We have all kinds now.
Okay, I'm Tilly Vanderwalker, and I live on Tina Drive. And it seems to me like there's going to be so much, facing us on Tina Drive. And I was just wondering if there's going to be a new fence built to try and is it going to be a concrete or just regular fence for our neighborhoods on Tina Drive and the ones facing us, the single-family units?
Another thing on that I found out too is you have very minimal window back there on the rear property line. So it's not a lot of looking down.
Oh.
It's just one window, I think, one window. And I think I did read the condition on the fencing, if the applicant knows if it's wood or what are you gonna put on the exterior, because you have to fence the whole thing new, right? You know what type of material?
It'd be wood if it did. I mean,
I mean, you have a condition to fence the perimeter.
No double fencing.
And no double fencing, so
is the existing.
she's asking what type of fence you're gonna do back there.
It would be wood so it can be consistent with the neighborhood.
Okay.
So you're going to take down all the existing fence and put a new fence there?
No, we take it
Can't
in the
double
yard
fence.
and take it down, we'd have to do it on our side.
On the property.
Right, exactly.
Yes, generally, well, let me help. Just generally speaking, on a new development, the new developer would usually get with the neighbors and let them know that at a particular point in time, their existing fence is going to come down and they're going to be replaced with a new fence.
Okay.
If a neighbor has, a 6-foot block wall fence that he put in or she put in, there's probably some negotiation that can go on because you don't necessarily want to tear down that fence and replace it with something that's wood. I don't know what the situation is along Tina Drive's backyard fences. If it's all wood, then more than likely the developer's going to replace it with new wood fencing.
Okay, is it going to be a certain high
We-
level? Or is
Yeah,
it
most
gonna
of
be
our fences are all at 6 feet.
6 feet? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
And then if I may, just to clarify the question about the windows, kind of what Commissioner Lenore mentioned, just to maybe elaborate on a little bit. If you look at the second, this is kind of a typical one of the single family that would butt up against Tina Drive. If you look at the second floor plan where Abraham's pointing, bedroom 3, that would be, in that model plan, the only window that a person could stand and see right next to the glass. If you look to the right, it's open below to the living room, so a person would have to stand on the landing at the top of the stairs, right where the arrow Abraham's pointing, and they'd have to kind of look a lot farther across that room. So it's not really a direct view in, just in that bedroom. And then I know on the other model plan, that's a little bit different. There's a laundry room, so there'd be a laundry room window, and then the same thing in bedroom 3, you would be able to look essentially out that view up to the glass. But the same thing, it's open as well, and it's kind of maybe from me to maybe yourself, Commissioner Lenore, probably the distance where they can look through the window. So it allows light to come into that residence, but retains more privacy onto Tina Drive. Mhm.
Okay, any additional speaker cards?
Got one more. Is it Dennis LeBeau?
Dennis Lebo,
LeBeau?
and it's at 400 Tina Drive.
Thank you.
And if they can show the picture there, it shows that my home is the first one where the parking lot backs up from the building, the commercial building on that side. It would actually be this home here. So is it my understanding that that right there, the back of that building is going to be 10 feet from the back of that fence? In other words, they're going to be set in my backyard.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really not comfortable with that at all. And then the second concern that I have is that many times during the time that kids are going to school, when their parents are taking them to school and the parents are bringing them home from school, that traffic backs up there and that between Kmart and Safeway back to the south side entrance where we come in on Paul Drive. So we just added 36 homes over here in this other subdivision that they just started building and finishing. Now we're going to add another 101 people to this, and it will surely back into the south side entrance.
Well, you always have peak traffic. I mean, it's a very minimal part of the day that's gonna occur.
Yeah.
That's like a 30-minute window.
Yeah, and it'll actually back up in there where you can't get out of that area. So I would appreciate if we would consider that as we go along and see maybe put a stoplight down there as well, as if we're gonna put one up there on Ladd Lane where it comes in there. Because that way would we at least be able to get out at whatever intervals the stoplight lets us in and out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any additional speaker cards, Bill? None? All right, we'll close the public hearing at 7 o'clock and bring it back to the commission. Any comments, questions for staff?
Mr. Chair, I have a few comments. You know, I think, I don't recall in the near future we've talked about roundabouts, but I really like this. One of the features I like about the site design is a roundabout. And you kind of think of roundabout as it's a traffic calming element. You don't have to make right turns. I think this roundabout would serve just more of a purpose than enabling a person who's not going through that gated area to turn around and go back out. So I think I have compliments to the designer with, I don't know how that came about, but I happen to like that, along with the building designs. I think that, again, as Jennifer said, the women that worked on this project, Ann Hall, who's here, and Christina Perez, who's not here, but I think that I have to say that the architectural designs are very well thought out and detailed and quite attractive, so I have to make those comments. There's some issues that were brought up about traffic. I think Dave did a good job answering some of that. How that's going to pan out in the future, we may have to take another look at that. But I think I'm happy with this proposal, and I don't have anything negative to say about it.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Any other comments, questions, fellow commissioners? No? Okay. What is the pleasure of the commission on this item?
Which one do you want first, Bill?
Go ahead and do them as they're listed. So SNA tentative map conditional use permit. 12, 13, and 14.
So I'll make a motion to approve site and architectural review 2013-3, tentative map 2013-1, and conditional use permit 2013-2 for a planned unit development for the North Florida Development Ted Intervena project.
What the changes, Commissioner Torres?
With the changes outlined within each of the conditions.
Second that.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Item passes. We will move to new business. Any new business or none? Department reports?
I don't know if you guys have anything. The only thing I wanted to mention tonight is, for those of you who realize that Brody here is not the city attorney, we don't. we tried to get one. This is the best we can do for tonight. We do have a firm that's under contract now to provide us with some legal counsel. It is not as, obviously Stephanie was basically here, not quite full-time, but she was here pretty regular and would come to these meetings. Our new city attorney, or the contract that we currently have, only allows us to have an attorney available to city staff between 12 and 15 hours a week, roughly. So what I encourage you is, if you have a question regarding anything that's legal, whether conflicts or interest or whatnot, please give me a call, and we will put you in touch with them. It's not that I don't want you to use them, but we just need to be a little bit more careful now when we use them, because we get billed on a regular basis. So, again, any questions at all, you need to let me know, and we will put you in touch with them. So I'm not telling you, I need you to be comfortable with using them. We just want to be able to keep track of it. So that's the one thing that I do want to tell you. We have two people that are working over there. They're both really, really good people. You'll like them both. And if there are controversial items that are going to be here in the future, we can certainly make sure that she's here, or one of them is here. Deb Mall is the person that's probably going to be here more than most of the time. Their office is in Monterey. So, you're welcome.
There's going to be a lot of activity out there in the next week or so, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah. Just want to say, hope everyone enjoys the big parade tomorrow, the horse and buggy show out there. And also, we won't be meeting until after the 4th of July and all the activities with the rally, and hopefully that goes well for the city. And should be exciting for all those that want to take part in it. And that's about it for me.
Okay. Any additional items? No? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Nice motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, our next regular meeting is Thursday, July 25th at 6 p.m. Thank you.